Sanibonani, and welcome to Indao-Talk. This is where you get empowered with knowledge that helps you navigate through the property market. It is proudly brought to you by Indao-Talk. You go to platform for affordable properties in South Africa. I'm your host, Usihle Ndlovu, and today I am blessed with the presence of Moses Mathebula. He is a property agent, property practitioner, as they say,
Principal.
and principal from Mapfumo Property. But he's also a real estate investor, so he owns multiple properties across Gauteng, not just in the estate business, but also actively in listing, especially in our platform, Indao-Talk. I call him Mania because he's been my teacher for the longest of time. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, sir. And how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm well, please.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Mina ngiyakwazi, but our viewers obviously it's their first time experiencing you.
My name is Moses Mathebula. I've been in the industry for 20 years, operating as Mapfumo Properties. We are selling properties and renting out property. I'm the principal of Mapfumo Property, and I've done NQ4 in real estate and NQ5. Other than that, before that, I've done a BCom in business studies from Midland Graduate.
Okay, that's awesome. I think I want to know, what's it property?
Well, before I joined the property industry, I used to work at the airport under operation. I think I worked there for 10 years. But while I was doing that job, I had a friend who was in real estate. And I developed an interest in him because he was always available. And myself, I was doing shifts. Always have to go to work when it's weekend, during the week. And every time I come back, I find him home. And our lifestyle was the same. So I asked myself, is this a good job that I'm doing? Then I gained interest to say, I want to be like him. Because I see him spending more time at home and we're living the same lifestyle.
No, it's clear. It's true, when it's property agents I have a lot of time on their hands. Okay, so if someone today were to want to get into the industry, how would they go about it?
Well, you can join the real estate industry through studying through colleges that are offering this property practitioners in Q4 and then Q5. You can go to universities to study property management, or you can join a real estate company agency where you will be practicing practically, but under the supervision of a mentor who will be guiding you through. And in the process, he will say, I will be teaching you practical, but you still need to enroll with the college. Because for you to be registered as a qualified agent, you need a Q4.
Okay, so but can you buy and sell? Can you sell in the midst of you doing your training?
Yes, because also while studying, if you're not under the agency, you cannot sell. So by joining an estate agency company, it will, while doing practical as a learner agent, you are under the mentorship of a principal who will be teaching you how to sell and how to market properties. So by so doing, you are able to do practical job of real estate agent. The only limitation is you only work under supervision because you need to have the principal with you. You cannot conclude a contract without a principal.
Yeah, no, which makes sense. And then how long does it take?
Normally it will take you 12 months
to qualify
as a property practitioner agent. Other than you will be serving as a learner until you complete the course.
12 months and you are in business. Okay, so the purpose of this talk really is for us to dissect some of the issues that we find under our app. and I think the biggest issue really is the property sales transaction. So I think that's where I want us to start. So when someone comes to you as a property agent, at Mr. Mathebula, I'm selling my house. What do you ask from them as supporting documentation, or how does your process begin?
Obviously, I will need to know the ownership of the property. Do you have the title deed that shows the recorded owner of the property? Or if it's a deceased estate, there is what we call a letter of executorship that is issued through the Master of the High Court that nominate the representative who monitor the execution of the estate. Or you can get the ownership through the municipality that has a record of all the houses around the township.
So I understand that when as a property agent you have access to that information, but so me as a buyer, for instance, do I have access to that information? Can I go to the municipality and ask for those records?
Not really, because the property to be in the market, it has an agent who's marketing it. So it is wise that you contact an agent who's selling the property. But remember, for confidentiality, the municipality won't share with you the information of another person.
Okay, so meaning that I have to rely on that. So whatever that the property is doing is what the property agent is doing is legit and professional, right?
Remember, those property practitioners are qualified agents and registered agent under the supervision of the property practitioner board. So it's a legal structure that it's working on those properties.
So then how do I check maybe if like that the property agent is registered?
Obviously, you have to contact the property practitioner board, and it is advisable for every buyer or seller to use a legal registered agent, because if there is a recourse, the board controls those registered agents.
Oh, so basically before I the buyer come in, whoever is selling the property must have the knowledge that whoever is selling my property is been verified and is registered.
Yes, it is very important. It must be a registered agent that can be verified, and also it is recommended that whoever claims to be the property practitioner must have a certificate that he is required to produce to the seller or to the buyer when requested.
Okay, is that the Fidelity Fund certificate? Right?
Fidelity Fund certificate, yes.
Okay. No, and I think now, so in the property sales transaction, right, there's you, the property agent, there's the property owner, and then there's the conveyancer, right?
Yes.
Those that deal with the transfer of properties.
Yeah.
So those are also appointed by you, the agent, or they form part of your network?
Well, they form part of our network, but remember, as a property practitioner, you're being appointed by the seller. So the seller has got the right to say who manages my transaction.
Okay.
So in consultation with the seller, but due to lack of knowledge in most sellers, they don't have those attorneys or conveyancers who are dealing with this transaction. And as property practitioners, we end up building relationships and knows the people that are helping us quick.
Oh, okay. No, makes
So
sense.
we'll recommend to them, can we use this one only if they reject it.
Oh, okay. So, okay, I think I'm getting you now, né? So basically, the appointment sits with the owner of the property. Basically, they will go to whoever that they trust. Né? Okay. Okay. Now, my other question is because in the township, we find ourselves in many serious circumstances where, for instance, sometimes people come and they claim that they are agents, but we're not really sure if they are agents. But today, I'm confident that our viewers know how to verify an agent. What is an agent? What should they produce that Fidelity Fund certificate to prove which I'm a registered agent. So no one now can come as the agent without providing the sufficient information. And then in terms of property transfers, because I want us to also diverge on this one, because yazi unokuthola abantu abayi-2 bathi bathengiselana indlu athi hayi ngizokunikeza imali mfethu bese siyi-transfer. So, and for me, which I found which has been a big risk because of lack of knowledge. I think I'm happy now that you are here and you've clarified the matter. So meaning that if a buyer and a seller have been established, the buyer can just now find a conveyancer who can conclude the property transfer without the agent.
Well, I wouldn't promote that because remember, this is a legal transaction. A buyer cannot choose his own lawyer. Well, if it's a cash deal, say if the money is on a trust, on approval of the seller, to say, I trust these people, but you need somebody with the knowledge. A property practitioner is somebody who's trained, who will advise better. The procedures that will go through, the time that will take for the transaction to be concluded. So for us to be safe, we always need professionals.
To be honest, I agree with you. It's clear. It's loud and clear. And then now let's add in another layer now. Let's come to the property valuation, because I think it's also another layer which is we still lack a lot of information on. Well, on Indao-Talk, what we find is that what the buyers want, what the buyers see as the market value of the property is always different to what the sellers say. How are these properties valued?
Well, the valuation, if it has to be done properly, there are registered property valuators. Normally, there are independent companies. Also, they are regulated. Some, they are working for the banks. Also, the knowledge that the property practitioners, they have through the environment, they can determine the market value. The market value is based on a similar property in the same area has been sold for this amount. It has been confirmed with the bank. And if the bank has already confirmed with their valuator, it becomes easy for me to sell the next property. So their knowledge that they've developed around that environment, it becomes easy, and it is better for me to follow their advice. Because even if, as a seller, I need more, they can advise to say, we have sold similar property in this area for this amount. We might receive a challenge from the bank, because the bank, before they finance a property, they have to send a qualified evaluator to ensure that their investment is protected.
Okay, makes sense. So meaning that, let's say for instance, in the case of a bond transaction, the bank would send someone to value the property before they approve the bond. Yes. And then you match it with whatever you want as your selling price.
Yes, like normally when you apply for a bond with a bank, first you get approved as a person to say you are approved in principle, subject to house evaluation. So your credibility allows the bank to approve you. Then they go and assess the property. Then with the value that the property evaluator will find is what you will advise the bank to say it is equivalent to the selling price. So you find property transaction failing because they are overpriced. And if the overpriced, it's up to the seller whether he wants to listen to the bank or not. So it will determine whether the transaction will proceed or not.
Oh, so basically, what I'm getting here is that I, as the buyer, if I really want to know if this property is valued at whatever amount that they're saying it is. So the bond process will confirm that for me.
Yes, the bond process will
Yeah.
confirm and protect you. When you negotiate, say if there's no bond, it's a cash deal, they have to substantiate to say, that's why I said it need a property practitioner who has a knowledge of the environment of the area to say, we have this property in this area, it has been recently sold for this amount. So this is what we're selling in the area. So obviously you cannot conclude being a seller and a buyer without the knowledge or the consultation of a property practitioner who has an extensive knowledge because they work in that environment.
Okay, and then who then finances that transaction? Let's say, for instance, it's the two of us and the agent, and now the valuer is being called into the transaction to come and tell us how much is this property. Who pays for that?
Normally it will be the seller, because it's the one that's asking the price. So remember, the seller, he has a prerogative to get help to market the property and also to verify to the buyer the price that is legit. So without having a property practitioner and without having a registered valuator, it's up to him how he will substantiate the market value of the property.
Okay. No, I wasn't there. So I think now we can safely say we know as a seller that but before we get that, now the conveyancer, because what I'm trying to find that now, how are all of these people financed, I believe that the conveyancer though is paid by the buyer, right? In the property.
Yes, the conveyancer is paid by the buyer, the property practitioner is paid by the seller, and when it's the responsibility of the property practitioner to advise the buyer for the costs that are involved in purchasing a property.
No, it's clear. So basically, as a buyer, if I want to buy a property now, I'd have to have a separate budget for the transfer costs. And then if I'm selling, I'd have to have a separate budget for all the other service providers that are going to come within the property sale. So for instance, I know sometimes that there's also an engineer that might come and survey the place and come up with the plan, because I've seen something like that in one of the transactions that we've dealt with.
I think one thing that I would like to advise the public, it's selling and buying, it's a legal process and it involves a lot. That's why there is a board that regulates the practitioners to advise. Yes, there are a lot of people or a lot of entities that are involved in the transaction. You find sometimes a property is being built in a mud area where, depending on the impact that the mud has on a property, it has to be evaluated by an engineer to say it is sustainable for it to last for long because of the area where it is built. So those type of advice, you need qualified people. So it's not a matter of me as a buyer and a seller selling to each other. Or you find cracks in a property, which there is a need that one assess the impact of the crack in the property. So those type of issues need professionals to verify and to advise.
No, I think it's clear that we cannot do complete the transaction without the help of sales agents, property practitioners, let me say. And I just wanted us to emphasize that, so that they can stop thinking, it's a very complex transaction and it needs qualified people, and it also depends on the house and how it looks like. And to be honest, some of the things you can never see them, but if you have the advice of a professional next to you, you can then be able to get the wisdom. You would know, and this is how much they charge. Let's come and appoint them. But as you proceed, can you now talk about the agent fees, because it's also another pressing matter that I felt we need clarity on. How much should agents charge? According to, what's the minimum?
Well, agent fee is regulated by the Property Practitioners Board. With my knowledge, the agency, the Property Practitioners Board determined the maximum amount that can be charged, which currently is 8%. But based on the situation of the seller, anything can be negotiated.
Okay. What does that mean?
I can say the maximum amount that we are allowed to charge is 8%.
8%.
Then any amount, if the circumstance of the seller doesn't allow or doesn't afford him to pay that 8%, are you willing as a property practitioner to take less?
But
to accommodate?
You can't go above.
Going above, only if you can negotiate. The seller allows you that.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. There is a maximum amount that they said we work up to 8%.
Okay.
You can negotiate for 5, you can negotiate for 3, you can negotiate for 6. There are situations where a person buys a property, within 6 months he wants to sell it. Say he loses a job, there is no equal equity on the property. He had to sell. His equity there is less that he can't pay the agent. So he needs somebody to market the property. They end up sharing the equity of what that comes out of the sale.
That makes sense.
So there are a lot of reasons why it has to be negotiated.
No, it makes sense. I think I was just concerned with the prices that are above the 8%, because as many of our people are not aware of such things. So I think it's good for us to let them know. So if, for instance, for example, if you're selling a property, 200,000, the highest that you can pay the agent is 16,000, which is 8% of the property value. And then it's paid after the property sale has been completed.
On registration.
On registration.
Yes.
Okay. And then how long does it take to conclude the property sale?
Normally we say 3 months, 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
But delays do happen because there are a lot of companies involved or entities like municipality. You have to apply for the rates, the time that they take to respond. You have to check with the bank how much are they owing, how much cancellation, and also through valuation, the evaluator can pick things that need to be attended. And to get those companies to complete their job, it takes time. Sometimes there is it involves money also. So whatever you might have advised the seller to say, you're going to get this, if we need an engineer, somebody has to finance that. So you find even the sale falling through.
And those engineers are paid before the transaction is completed, right?
Yes. They are doing a job.
And
so they need to be paid. So they come there. So those are costs that are indirectly involved, which you might not know about them. But if it comes to push, there is a compliance certificate from the electrician. You might find the electrician come and make a quote which is high. And obviously, if it's high, it impacts on the proceed of the seller.
Okay, just explain the electrician part. So, what does the electrician do in the property transaction?
Before any transfer to be effected, we need a COC. We call it a COC. a certificate of compliance. A certificate of compliance, it means an electrician has to come and inspect the plugs, the electrical installations in the house. If
the plumbing included, or just electricity?
the electricity. Well, plumbing is done by a plumber. Obviously, as a buyer, when you inspect, you have to check the water is coming out, the toilet is not making noise, there's no leakage. So those type of things are things that can be fixed. You can ask, please attend to this. But in electric, it's something that runs on the walls. So you need to check also that there are lights that is coming up on a globe. So if you check those things, the stove is not working, those are risk hazard that can burn the house. So a professional need to come and certify that the electric of the house is in order. And before he issued the certificate, he need to fix it. Because for a new owner, he needs to come to a house that is fully functional electrical and certified by a professional. That if it burns, the insurance, they might claim from the electrician through their boards who registered them.
So basically, for each and every property sale, there must be a sales certificate.
Yes.
Cash or
bond.
finance.
There must be a COC certificate, and even the municipality, they cannot open a new account for a new owner without the certificate of compliance. Even if by any means a back door we have registered a property without a COC, it can be done at any time, because the moment you go to the municipality wanting to open an account, they will need a certificate of compliance.
And it's also financed by the seller.
It's financed by the seller.
So I think these are the things that we need to take into account. So selling a house is not just saying, you know. I think it's advisable for our users to understand that the process is very, very complex, and you need to be ready financially before thinking about the selling price, because other people really but I know I'm going to 500,000, so whatever cost that comes, it will be covered on that.
I think it's a lack of knowledge and this stereotype to say I'm selling a what is as it is. But the impact of those sales are negative, because one, when you buy a property, it's a long-term investment. It has to maintain the standard. And to maintain the standard, it must be built in with a plan, in the right condition, certified. So some buyers, they end up buying things that they end up regretting by not following the required standard. The required standard, that's why government is regulating this.
Okay, I think you touched on something very important, the house plan. So basically, for each and every house that is built, there must be a house plan, isn't it? So, and say for instance, a house was built 10 years ago. I, as the new buyer, how do I access it? Do I go to the municipality?
Obviously, the owner needs to have a copy of the house plan, and also the municipality keep the record of the house plan. Because the house plan assists if there is any alteration in the house, it has to be documented.
Okay, and then if there's no house plan, so when you're going to
a house plan, it's very important that a normal bank cannot finance that transaction.
house plan.
No house plan. A normal bank cannot finance that transaction without the house plan, because it is risky to build on things that are not approved. There are sewer lines, there are electrical lines. You cannot build on top of that. It's a health hazard.
But can you then do a house plan in the midst of the property transaction? Say, okay, fine, there's no house plan, but let's appoint someone to do it. How does that affect our transaction?
Well, it is one of the delays that we find. If there's no house plan, we have to get an architect to do one. and it has to wait until the approval of the municipality. The municipality will come and inspect and follow the plan, the original plan of the house. And if whatever alteration that you have done, it's against the bylaws of the municipality, the transaction can fail. Or you have to demolish whatever alteration that you have made.
Sure. Okay, wait. So by the transaction can fail, you are saying that the property cannot, the municipality will not register a new owner on that property because
of the alteration that are not documented.
No, it's well of it. I won't say more. I think now some of the knowledge is new knowledge to me. I didn't know. I thought unga register the property transfer can be done, but yeah, okay, no, new knowledge.
I think just to add, yes, it's 9 weeks to register a property, but the transaction can run even for 2 years.
For 2 years,
not complete, not being complete because of outstanding things that need to be done. And people tend to ask themselves why. But if you know that shortcuts, it becomes the longest way to do things.
And sometimes they blame agents.
And they blame
slow.
Agents. We have transactions that are running over a year. So there are delays. So I will advise people to follow the right way of doing this. The shortcut, it turns out to be the longest road to travel.
It catches up with you in the long run.
And in the process, people are losing money, time, and also just to say I want to own a property that is not in a good condition. Those are the risks.
So you don't just. So I guess now it emphasizes the point we were talking about. If it's so you choose things, I will miss out on all of these things if there's no practitioner in between. Because COC, the next thing 2 weeks later, there's an explosion. What now? So I think to minimize the risk, really, it's always it's the main reason for this video is that I want to emphasize the importance of property agents, especially in the townships, or maybe in the real estate market at large, but in the market that we operate in, because there's always a misconception of hey, I'm agents, hey, I'm agents, So I think part of this video was to emphasize the importance of property agents and why we should always rely on them for knowledge and assistance, because so many things that we don't know, and some we can even see this I can't go with on my own. So now let's come to rental space a bit. I want us to address the valuation of rent income or of the rental price. I understand that there might be not a regulation that says this is how much. Is there a regulation on how much you can rent out a place from?
No, there's no regulation, but there is a competitive amount based on the market.
Okay.
The market is determined by the supply and demand in the area. So, yeah, it's based on that. And the value of the property and the area that determine the prices.
I think maybe let's just advise a random landlord to just build his own place if he wants the rental amount, which is the reference points that he can use, what the others are charging next door.
Yes, what others are charging next door, and also through property practitioners, because they are in that business.
They know
what is happening in that. Yeah.
So again, we're coming back to the importance of property agents.
The importance of a property practitioner, it's very important because they deal almost daily with these challenges.
Tell me, the pricing of property agents or property practitioners, rather, when it comes to rental income or renting out properties, because acres we have an issue. You would say people do not want to pay the admin fee, and from an urban perspective, I understand what the admin fee is, but when I come to the township and rent out properties there, or when people list properties on Indao-Talk, there's a mismatch between what users want and what the old property owners or the property agents have. So basically, abantu who are saying no, property agent must charge the owner of the property. Mina, I only want to pay the deposit.
I think my input on that is everything is regulated. Like I will give you an example. If a property it's valued at 100,000, a normal rental amount that we can charge there is 1% of that of the value of the property.
Okay, wait. You said 100,000.
Yes.
Well, then
The 1% of it will be 1,000.
1,000 rand.
Yes.
Mm.
So that 1,000 rand it entails what a normal seller can charge. And who pays the fee for management is the seller.
That's the seller.
That assists that if there's a dispute. This thing in South Africa, all our disputes are resolved through the court.
Mm.
A court will ask a property practitioner's license, what the regulations are saying. So even if we bypass the property practitioners, at the end they will be needed if there is a dispute. And during rental, the seller, the owner, is the one who's paying
The rates.
the fees for the agent.
Okay, so basically what you're advising is that as a property owner, you must be within the services of an agent every time.
Every time, yes, some they choose to do it themselves, but when there are disputes, it's where you find you need those people. With their knowledge, they can take the client to court and the court can assist to resolve the dispute.
Okay, so, but what you say, because I want to ask now that, but I can get into a disagreement as a property owner with the seller without involving the agent, isn't it? So,
You can,
okay.
but then it means all the risk is on you.
They already sound.
So how do you resolve your risk? We don't use a physical fight in dispute. We follow the court. Then the court will ask you why you're not following the rules.
No.
So you run a risk of losing cases.
No.
So everything has to be done. That's why even the government regulates it for a reason that any transaction, any business has disputes. And as long as it's managed by regulated people, professionals.
You know, I love what you said about the 1% rule. I wasn't aware of that. So if your property value is, for instance, 500,000, so your rental should be at a maximum of 5,000 a month. Okay, that's new knowledge, and I hope someone there is able to, because we get this question a lot as we navigate. People don't know how to price their properties, and some they overdo it. But I understand some obviously price their properties based on their finance arrangement with the banks. Some took a loan to finance it, and then they spend more on construction. Then as a result, there's a mismatch between what the demand says or the normal rates are saying to cover now their investment cost and be profitable in the long run. They end up then taking it a little higher up.
I think to respond on that, when you check even on a property that is being developed or any property transaction for a bond, what is the repayment amount? It's 1% of the bond amount. And that, say if I buy a property of 100,000, because the bond that I can get there is 30% of that bond amount. And 30% of bond amount, it allows me to pay, say, 1% every month. Say, if I can charge a person 1% equal to what I'm paying to the bank.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot today. Now let's diverge to the issue of I avoided it earlier. So lender by a letter of authority. No? The issue of diseased estates. So let's diverge now into the issue of diseased estates. A letter of authority, because you find a lot of people buying into family homes, and then when it is time for eviction, the family then says, "Hi, indlu kamama lasindawo." I understand which there is no right formula because the wrong person is the one that sold the house. But I, as the buyer, what can I possibly do to just safeguard myself from losing in that property deal?
I think, remember who issues the letter of executorship. The letter of executorship is a document that states the person nominated to represent the estate. So if it's a family member, he should have been chosen by the other family members. But remember, they might not agree, all of them. But at the end of the day, the letter of executorship shows the name of the executor who's representing the family. Now, as an executor, it doesn't mean that you've got all right to sell the property. You have to have the buy-in of everyone. So what we find in townships, we find that people, they don't agree. If one member doesn't agree to sign, there won't be any sale.
Okay, before you proceed, how do we know who's supposed to sign?
I'm saying the letter of executorship indicate the nominated person. Who nominate the person? The court can nominate the person through interviewing the other family members.
Okay.
But in that family members, it doesn't mean everybody supporting the nominated person. If the nominated person is not supported by everyone, a transaction can fail by one not agreeing to the sale. And the letter of executorship is issued by the master of the High Court.
Okay, I just want you to assist me on this one. Is the difference to how the bank approaches the sale of a deceased estate? Because I normally have this perception that, when you go things via the bond process always minimizes risk of loss. Is the difference between how they approach it and how maybe it would happen on a cash sale?
Well, I'm not sure if I understand you well, but it's the same, because when you apply for a bond, the person who's selling to you must be identified. He's the owner, he's the executor. As long as the right person signs the offer to purchase to say, I'm selling in this capacity. Remember, who can sell the property is the rightful owner, is the nominated executor, is the lawyer, if it's appointed, or the wife in the marriage or the husband in the marriage.
Okay, in the marriage, so by you saying the wife, meaning that the wife alone can sell it?
Yes, if the husband is passed on.
Oh, but
or if they agree, one of them, they can agree, one of them can sign while we're still applying for the bond.
Okay, and then if the other disagrees?
If there's no agreement, obviously the
cannot proceed.
Cannot proceed.
So basically, what we are saying here is that as a buyer, I must be sure that all the signatories are in agreement with the sale. And I cannot really have all the proof, but I must try and know who is involved in this property transaction. Apart from this nominated person, who else is involved? And then also try and get their view. Do they agree now with the sale before I proceed? I think that's the best advice that you can give to a buyer when dealing with a property which has more than one signature.
No, there's always one signature. That's why in a family only one person can be appointed.
The thing is,
to sign, but it can fail in a process if they don't agree.
Yeah, ngikhuluma ngale ndaba.
If there's no family, only if there's a family dispute amongst them.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to, because we get a lot of them. We get a lot of them where there's one that believes I want to sell, but there's an aunt from somebody who lives somewhere else who's saying no, never buy a kiss. You know,
if there's a family dispute on a execution, the transaction will fail.
It won't happen. Yeah, so I was just emphasizing the point that maybe for people to then not expose themselves to failing transactions is to try and just get a feel of who else is involved in this deal, and and what level of influence they can have. Can I proceed now or not? But most importantly, by doing a cash sale on without the agent on a diseased estate is a no-go area.
Without following the proper channels, make sure that you are well aware of what's happening. A transaction can be concluded in a deeds office and it can be reversed. If it is determined that flaws were made in the process.
No, the right procedures were not
followed.
Yeah, because to be honest, I
can buy people in the deeds office to finalize the transaction, but for me to be registered, if there are flaws, a court can reverse that decision. So we need to be well advised, know what is the reason for the sale. It's this investment. There's no family dispute. To be sure of what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's the point that I wanted us to emphasize. So now, when applying for a house, I understand that the bank wants to pay your pay slip, obviously, and to know to assess your risk, employment risk. But do you have any idea of the salaries? Like, how much do I need to earn to afford a property, acres?
I think what we need to know, it is by a law that at any amount of salary that you earn, 30% of your income is the bonded amount that the bank can lend you.
Okay.
If you earn 10,000, 30% of 10,000 is 300,000. Do we have a property for 300,000? It's what you can buy.
Okay.
Because it accommodates the risk of affordability. Having a property, you still have to buy food, you still have to maintain your children. So it's by the law to make it affordable to buy a property.
Okay. No, I think
so. There's no right amount. It's salary. It's based on what salary are you getting. 30% of that salary. We have a person who is earning 10,000. He can afford to pay a rent of 5,000, but he cannot buy that property because 30%. He can only buy for 300,000.
So meaning that if you are earning 20,000, your bond amount should be around 6,000.
6,000.
No, I think it's clear to our viewers that because it's a question that I get most of the time. So this is how much I earn. So basically, it's a question of saying if I'm earning 10,000, it's a question of saying, can I find a property that is 300,000, and can the bank approve it? Was it built right? Does it have a plan? Okay, no, I think I'm clear. And
it's very important because a person will say, I earn 20,000. I can afford a rent of 10,000. Yes, on a rent you can afford, but not on a bond. On a bond, they will give you 600. And if you can afford a rent of 10,000, it means you can buy for 1 million. And for you to be given a bond of 1 million, you need to be earning
something that
25 of it.
No.
So that is the variation.
And then, so with Mapfumo Properties, which areas do you cover?
Well, we cover our area of focus is Kempton, Park Tembisa, municipality.
Okay.
But we do extend around East Rand.
East Rand.
Yes.
Okay, and then do you have a price range or any property?
No, any property.
Any property.
But we concentrate a lot on these affordable houses,
Affordable
the
houses.
municipality houses.
Okay.
The township houses, I mean, not the municipality. The township, yeah, around below million, around or below million. That is our target market.
And yeah, I think as we're having the conversation, I sort of picked up a lot of challenges that you find as a property agent as you navigate through the space, like the delays. Is there anything else maybe that you might have missed, maybe for someone who wants to be an agent but is not also aware of the other challenges that are there? I know it's no commission, no any.
Yes, it's a difficult profession per se. There's a lot of turnaround people leaving the industry. The problem is you need to have a business knowledge. It's a business. It's a business.
True.
You need to run a business.
True.
Selling one property, it might go well without any challenges. But while you are there, you might find selling 5 properties with problems. And those 5 properties, it delays. You might find yourself without an income for 12 months.
Because of the delays.
Because of the delays. So those are some of the challenges that you come across. And without a basic income. So people, they end up to say it's an easy job. It's easy when you find properties without challenges. But those with challenges, there must be a good support who's supporting you to do the business, to run that business. So it's not an easy industry to work on.
So I'm thinking here that so basically to run a successful property agent and minimize risk, it's always best to own some and have a rental portfolio.
You must be a businessman. You must be a businessman who knows that business is not only about income.
True.
You end up dealing with the challenges.
Yeah.
And in that process, you need to have different sources of income for you to be sustainable.
True.
And obviously, a business person knows how to invest. So if without the business knowledge, you won't succeed in this industry.
So you must be well equipped.
You must be well equipped, knowing that you can run a 6 months without an income. Because during those good days, you can raise good money.
Yeah.
And when you raise a good money, you must be able to maintain that this is my income. If your income is 10,000, please reserve it to cover you for the coming months. The rainy days.
So basically, if I sell 3 properties, I make 300,000. I don't blow it all now, but I preserve it, you know, and eat it.
A business person knows that all our expenses are controlled, are audited. There must be good financial flow that reflect an income and an expense.
But I think this is good knowledge, especially for those that are new in the industry, you know, because they're saying ceilings and now boom. And I also understand that obviously you need to use the money you made in the previous transaction to market the other one that you get, because you need to travel, you need to do viewings. All of these costs are on you, and there's no guarantee of recovering the amounts back.
Truly, a business, it has to be run how businesses run. There are expenses, there are salaries, there are admin costs. Those things has to be run properly and good financial management if you want to succeed. Because the moment you are able to find 50,000, you look at it as 50,000 and you blow it, then it means there's no financial control there. And in a process, that 50,000, it was supposed to cover you for 6 months or for 3 months. If you can use it in 1 month, you run a risk working without cash?
No, I think so a property agency is a business. You must not look at it as some freelance, because most of it people buy bona as no it's bona new one, so I can be able to use the money, and yeah. So I think you are clear. Thank you very much, sir, for gracing us today with your presence. I think I've learned a lot, and I hope my viewers as well picked up a lot of things. There's so many things that we discussed, but I think most importantly, we emphasize the importance of property agents and the role they play in our community, and that to go without them is a big risk, because all property transactions, they end up at the court of law, and if anything went wrong, the deal can collapse and one can lose a lot of money. How do people contact you, Minyar?
Now they can contact us through my cell phone number 082 977 0518. And also we do our promotions through the townships where we operate on. So feel free to contact us, and we are willing to advise. And to those who are willing to join the industry, it's not a quick scheme. You need to know the basics. You need to know how to run a business. I'm 20 years in the industry because of following those basic business principles. Without them, you will run away. It's not easy.
There you go. No, thank you very much, Minyar. But anyway, if they can also, you can still contact me, guys, because Mr. Mathebula is part of Indao-Hub, so his properties are there. If you can check, most of the sales that you will find in Jackson Kempton Park on Indao-Hub, it's his properties. So if you're interested, hit him up, or you can send us a DM. But that's it for me. Indao-Talk. I'm out.